catch up with all our shows by visiting our YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Full of outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Education Tonight via Teachers Talk Radio. I'm here on the 13th of March with my good friend and co-host Brent Poland. Good evening, Brent. Are you okay?
Good evening. I'm just wearing my professor garb this evening.
Yeah, if anything kind of screams humanity teacher, you've got it all there, haven't you? You've been to the humanities teacher shop. Any patches on the?
I have been to the humanities teacher shop already. So I've decided that since it's taken me 20 odd years to accept I'm a teacher, I'm going to start looking like a teacher. Since I act like a teacher, I suppose if it was the old saying, if it quacks and it waddles, it's a duck. Well, if it looks like a teacher, acts like a teacher, talks like a teacher, it must be a teacher then, Although these days that probably means babysitter, social worker, therapist, psychiatrist, surrogate parent, chef, teeth brusher, nappy changer. Define a modern teacher. Artificial intelligence guru. I mean, what else? What job can you get where you get to be multiple things? Football coach.
I don't know what to say. I didn't know how long the list was. Mentor, psychiatrist.
Oh, well, you've done psychiatrist and psychologist. Yes, absolutely. And data manager. Forgot about data manager, analyzer of statistics, data input manager, line manager. Let's see what else. Proofreader.
Right. By the way, this is tonight's show. Everyone. Brent's just going to list his jobs. So
list all the jobs we do as a teacher. Crowd control, PCSO, police officer, internet watchdog. Let's see, friendship guru. That we're into that as well because parents expect us to help children make friends because that's our job to make these children happy. That's our job. We're customer services. I am a customer service
officer. Yeah. Administrator,
absolutely. Yeah. Administrator. Email answerer of random questions.
You told me as well the other week. Cleaner as well.
Oh, cleaner as well. Absolutely. I clean my own carpet and painter and decorator. Decorate my own classroom. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll put that
Catering. Catering. Do you bring food in for?
Well, tonight, I do make cups of teas and cups of coffees for my year 11 revision. Yeah, absolutely. So I am that, and of course, expedition leader, expedition organizer, school trip organizer. I mean, serious to goodness. I mean, what kind of job do you get where you have to literally stick on? I mean, you used to do that exercise of de Bono hats. You don't need a de Bono hats. You need a whole Savile Row with every hat they've got. It's absolutely ridiculous what they're asking us to do these days in teaching, modern day teaching. It's any wonder that people are just saying, can I just go to a nice board? And I saw a really good report recently with somebody in the local area, and they decided to become an embalmer. After 30 years of teaching, they said, I just want to be an embalmer. And the first thing they were said is like, what's the best thing about it? The quietness. The dead don't talk back. Yeah. The dead don't answer back and go, it's not my fault, it's not my fault, it's not my fault, you're to blame, you're shouting at me. The dead don't really give you grief. The dead don't write you emails telling you you're not doing a good enough job, even though the very people writing those emails probably should be reading a book to their children when they're 4 and 5 years old and not taking it on.
It'd be a great poll, wouldn't it, for one of the companies to do, is how many teachers in their working day just go and hide somewhere, just hide in the car, in the toilet, in a cupboard.
Well, that's what you do as a dad. I mean, it's starting to mirror your job as a dad when dad's hiding in the shed and dad's going to the toilet, lock the door, and go, What are you doing in here? I'm in the toilet. Leave me alone. I mean, is that what staff are doing now? They're kind of in the bunker going like, where are they? They're in the nuclear fallout shelter.
They've gone for like a little bit of peace and quiet. Well, thank you very much for tuning in today. That was really impromptu 5 minutes there. Tonight we're going to talk about two things. It's pretty much the next 5 days. It's going to be 5 years since we got put into lockdown as a sector. So I thought we'd spend some time talking about that because there has already been some kind of ceremony in London last weekend. But on the 18th of March 2020, we were actually told that the first of the lockdowns was going to happen. And Boris Johnson announced to the country that from after students got back after the Easter holidays, they wouldn't be invited back into school unless their parents were frontline workers, or there was like an additional educational need for them to be in education. So I think that's worth kind of just pausing there and just thinking about kind of what that was. The second topic for tonight is we had a conversation on the way back from Manchester, which was great. The Teachers Connect event, and I really look forward to another one soon. I think kind of penciled in, was it September, something like that? I think there's going to be one around
subject
there.
ones, obviously, but that was the massive one, and it was great. Saying Mr. P, you can get that back on playback for different subjects, sort of things. It was very successful. It was a great day. Well done to the Teachers Talk Radio extended family and the Teach Meet organisers. It was very, very good. Very proud of it. Very proud to be involved in it. Very humbling to see the talent in the room, the brains of some of the best brains of the teaching fraternity there with some fantastic ideas. It was just really good to see, because sometimes, like tonight, we're going to be talking about some of the positive and negative things in education, but when you're in a room with people who are doers, who are action, and who are, deeds, not words, it does give you that massive motivation to think, as much as we are sometimes in a constant crisis in education, there are a lot of good people out there doing a lot of good work, and we can lose sight of sometimes the glass being a little bit half full rather than half empty. And especially when you come back from some of those sort of meetings, you look and you go, yeah, there's a lot of talent in this country, a lot of talented teachers out there, and a lot of talented individuals, and the children are lucky to have them. And I'm in awe sometimes when you see what some of our colleagues come up with, some of the brains that the education sector, I don't think really fully appreciates, or even sometimes the parents of the kids. But it's nice to see them and actually show your appreciation for them and say thank you to the likes of Mr. P's done for the teaching profession, really highlighting some of the issues that we deal with. And you were saying, for instance, the likes of your wife who's a non-teachers, even
that's right,
even to access them and sort of start to relate to some of the issues that we have. And also I think those issues replicate themselves in the rest of the public sector. When you talk to police officers, you talk to nurses and doctors, we're in the same front situation, all of us, firefighters, NHS. There's a definite parallel between those of us in the last generation who've kept the home fires burning and held the line. And it's getting tougher and tougher. But when you're in a room full of people like that, it just gives you that little bit of energy and a little bit of re-energization to go, yeah, we got this. There's good people out there that you can talk to and help. And honestly, the way that everybody was, here's my resource, have my resource, here's this, use this. It's brilliant, isn't it? No sort of, no ulterior motive. And that's the best thing about teaching, is the altruism of, I've got this idea here, share it with you, I'll share it with you. And again, just the courage of people to be so open about it was fantastic.
Yeah, so what we talked about on the kind of the heading back out of Manchester was this. After an early night, we drove back from Manchester, and we decided.
No. You had an early night. I didn't have an early night. I was the last person out in Manchester at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. But
yeah, and if you had a sense of direction, I think you'd have found the hotel a lot quicker.
Manchester at 5 a.m.
For a geography teacher, that's quite remarkable. Again, when it's just a straight road back to the hotel, it's quite a feat. But we discussed on the way back the boiling the frog idiom, because we were discussing the fact that a lot of teachers they put up with a lot, and is it right to put up with all that? Is it are we tolerating too much? Do we have too much of a higher threshold, I guess, than most workers would have just given up? So it's worth just discussing that idiom as a kind of whole, to discuss maybe some of the things that are current in education.
It's
And
the concept of, at what stage do you notice? At what stage have we stopped noticing?
Yeah,
because the boiling frog idiom is that it's usually used, for instance, of how things like regimes take over. So it's usually used in geopolitical terms, where a regime takes over and you slowly see your freedoms curtailed, but you see them slowly curtailed, not enough to give you the sense of danger, not enough to give you the warning signs, but it just creeps in every little bit until you just simply don't notice it. It's very much like the Pastor Niemöller thing. First they came for, then they came for, then they came for, which is used in the Holocaust. So it's very much of that situation used for how fascist or authoritarian regimes take control of countries. And of course, the idiom is that a frog will jump out of boiling water, but if you turn the temperature up of the water ever so gradually, it will not notice the temperature changes, and therefore it won't realize it's being boiled. And that's the sort of, when you were teasing this out of me, it was that analogy I was trying to sort of suggest, that at what stage have we just reached a point where the norm in school, now that's relevant to our first story about the new norm, because the new norm in school is one of ever constant crisis. There's always a crisis now. There's a crisis in send, a crisis in behavior, a crisis in provision, a crisis in there's just, when have we not had a crisis when it comes to finances, pay, recruitment? We're in a perpetual state, and almost, it made me reflect on this about doing the show tonight, an Orwellian state, because in the whole Orwellian sort of ideology, you are in a constant state of war, a constant state of starvation, a constant state of kind of stress, so much so that you are literally living in that world where you don't even notice how stressful that world is, because in the Orwellian world, it is a world where there is constant starvation, constant striving. You're just never able to get relaxed. You're never able to feel as if you're settled. You're constantly on edge. They cut you literally, that sort of, constantly guessing and guessing. And that kind of environment is how schools are at the moment, because we are constantly, budget stressed, Ofsted stressed, parents stressed, children stressed. At what stage have we noticed the increase in this boiling water? And maybe, I think what we're going to really look at is maybe those 8 or 9% of people leaving every year have felt the water being boiled and went, I'm out of here. I'm not being boiled alone.
So they've jumped, the idiom would say. There are kind of topics there. Should we just say, so please feel free to kind of contact the show. We'd love to hear from you tonight, as always. If we just kind of say hello to our sponsors just while we'd let people kind of just take on board kind of what we talked about tonight. So as always, we are sponsored by John Katz, educational. Publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore a full range of titles, and use the code JCTTR2524 for 20% off your order. You can just see that ticking across the bottom. So thank you very much to John Cat. That's really good to have a sponsor. Thank you very much for your support. We're also pleased to be sponsored by BET award-winning Kialo Edu, which is a 100% free tool for thoughtful, inclusive classroom discussions. So I said to you, Brent, this could be one definitely for humanities teachers, but maybe sociology teachers and other kind of teachers. I think I might go on it for a kind of business studies debate as well, which is quite good. Students can instantly and simultaneously create an interactive map of discussion, deepening their subject knowledge and enhancing their critical thinking skills. Over 1 million educators and students are already using Kialo to make the world a more thoughtful place. Join them today at kialo/edu.com. And again, you can see their information kind of just scroll across the bottom of the screen. So thank you very much for your support on tonight's show. So as we said, pretty much on the money. Obviously, we have to kind of fall in line with kind of Thursdays. Imagine tomorrow the Keir Starmer comes on the news and says, schools are going to be closed. That was the situation, we were all put in kind of 5 years ago. What are your kind of immediate memories that come back when you think about kind of 5 years ago?
I was angry, and I knew, my gut instinct told me we were a week too late. We were far too late, far too relaxed. We had Cheltenham Festival. We had Atletico Madrid versus Liverpool. We did the typical thing he likes to do of not wanting to make the difficult decision. But we had a 2-week head start in this country. The Republic of Ireland already locked down. Schools were sent home in other countries. The UK was the last country to send its children home. But what was happening was, bit by bit, there were people who were like, somebody sneezed in the classroom. Out they went. And there was, it was literally like, you're not coming back. And we almost had a skeleton crew that last day when it was announced. I'm looking around at a half-empty classroom. We already reached that point where parents had started to take their kids out.
So parents had basically made the call before the school did anyway at that point.
But parents and people had already made the call before the government had made the call, and that was the whole joke of it. The government actually had a 2-week head start.
I find that just really interesting, because at the time we were literally, a stone's throw away from each other, and up to that point, there was no reaction across the pond. Essentially, at our school, I was still on the Thursday before the announcement on Friday, still teaching classes of 32, 33 students, key stage 3 kind of ICT computer science lessons. Right up to that point, no kind of warning, no windows open, no doors open, no nothing. It was just business as usual for us.
No, we had. I'm being the union rep. I'd started already. My kind of. I was never worried about myself during this. My two greatest concerns were my father, who's COPD emphysema, and getting him through COVID. The fact that he's got through COVID is an absolute miracle, considering how vulnerable he is, and he is on that lockdown. He was on that lockdown list, because the other thing is this country's lockdowns were something short of pathetic. When you look at the ridiculousness of the rules, it wasn't a lockdown. I often reflect and say, as Margaret Thatcher was in charge of this country during COVID, a lockdown would have meant a lockdown, not this half-baked, half-in, half-out nonsense that ended up with the worst case. We ended up with the worst case scenario, because we locked down so badly. People broke the rules so badly because the rules were so absolutely badly applied, because they just couldn't organize a shindig in a brewery. It was like, honest to goodness. And the way that schools were treated, when you reflect on it now, you had a situation where you couldn't get on a bus because the bus had to be half full. And then you get into a school, you've got 700 kids going down the corridor, no masks, no mitigation, because the schools were a magical place where COVID didn't exist. No, COVID doesn't exist in here. What for real? Absolute nonsense. I'm sorry. Teachers suffered. This idea that the kids didn't get it, that the kids didn't get it, kids didn't spread it. Oh, come on. We all knew that. We all stepped up. And then there's the narrative of schools are closed. Schools were not closed. We worked all the way through. We did our best. I went in, I volunteered. I went in during my own time and literally redesigned the school. So myself and the caretaker, two other members of staff, and the senior members of staff, and says, right, here's every classroom. And I got a skip. And I tell you this, I went through classrooms and just clutter, desks, stapled down the desk, put an exclusion zone around it, got fans, got us whatever I could, and literally went into the staff room and took off the furniture out of the staff room and literally bolted down with tape the chairs in my staff room. And I can't say to my senior manager, who was a scientist, and myself, both union people, between ourselves, our head teacher, I can't fault him. He was absolutely brilliant during this. He'd only just been a head teacher, only just his first head teacher job. A few weeks later, he's only just got the job. I mean, God bless.
That's not the frog in the boiling water, is it? That's a different idiom into the crime.
I have my differences sometimes, but on during COVID, he was absolutely brilliant. I have no problem publicly saying that, because he was just as concerned. He's a father of children. He's got the same concerns as everybody else, and he came to me one day and he says, I'm a dad as well as being a head teacher, as well as absolutely, we all had families to think about. My wife's NHS, mental health. I'm a teacher. We had 2 young children. So what was galling me sometimes was this idea that you had people sitting outside getting a suntan, getting free money, and they're criticizing us. Why aren't the schools open? And you're like, we are open, we are going in, we are looking after children, we're doing our best. But then this idea of let's get the schools open, and then I sort of realized what they really wanted was schools were important economically speaking for restarting the economy. So what does that make us? Glorified babysitters. So there was no, NHS got gear. We didn't get any gear. We didn't get any sort of
there was
We
never
got no
anything.
filtration systems never existed. Open a flipping window. There's some classrooms where you've got a window and it opens that much. Then they give you, honest to Jesus, Mary and Sweet Joseph, they give you air quality monitors, which is the equivalent of giving you a fire alarm with no means to put out the freaking fire. I mean, absolutely bat-poo crazy. And the lies, utter lies from Gavin Williamson. May he rot. May he rot. I hope he absolutely, and I'm going to say it in strictest terms, the government and people like Gavin and people like Boris, I'm sorry, got blood on their hands, and they've got the blood of bus drivers, teachers, doctors, nurses, and those people that stepped up in this country who had the courage, lions led by donkeys. And one of the things that always concerns me about the selective amnesia of this country is that, yeah, you know, it's happened. Nobody seems to be held account. Education stepped up. Teachers stepped up. We did our duty and we got gaslit. And then they had the flipping gall after the whole thing to go, well, you're not worthy of pay rise. Everything happened to those nurses, equivalent happened to ourselves. And in ranking order, God bless them, I have nothing but the utmost respect for those doctors and nurses. And I was outside clapping for them. And equally, they can say respect to the police officers, respect to the fire service, respect to the post offices, respect to the people manning those tills in those supermarkets. All of those people, all of those working class people, all of those decent, hardworking people suffered while the Department of Education got drunk and partied. And we were sent back to school in unsafe schools, and they were partying with the rest of them in government.
We'll come back to that in a minute.
It's got me very angry because the problem is, it's got me angry because the problem is nobody's ever held to account. No one's ever held their hand up and go, they got that wrong. The unions were slated. The unions were slated by the government. And the worst part of it is the inquiry showed that the likes of Gavin Williamson was playing games with the unions, not to give the unions better safety for their staff members because he didn't want to cave into them. He's playing politics with people's lives because the optics weren't good for him. I hope his conscience is absolutely killing him. I don't think they have one, because what I learned about the nature of government, it made me reflect exactly how expendable and how preciously little they thought of our lives, that all we were was a means to an end to get people back into jobs, that they lied about schools, they lied about safety, they lied about air quality, they lied about children not getting it. Children did get it. They weren't getting ill from it, but they spread it to us and they spread it to the rest of the community. And that is unfortunately where we're at. And since then, with schools, the COVID recovery money, there's 15 billion quid for COVID recovery money. They've got a COVID recovery czar. What they end up doing, 1.5 billion. Schools were so important to them that all of a sudden, when schools wanted their hand out going, hey, we're that important, give us the money. We're that important, help us out. Now you've done your job. Lions led by donkeys.
I'm going to interject, Brent, not to kind of undermine your comments, but just to give you...
you go on and put some balance in there. If there is some balance in there.
It wasn't to get balance. It was just to give you a chance just to kind of just get your blood pressure a little bit down. The reflection I had, certainly from an IT, because remember, I was kind of computer science IT at the time. All of a sudden, for me, it's kind of, in a weird way, kind of quite exciting, because all of a sudden, the kind of emphasis went down the kind of tech route, went down the kind of, how can we get education quickly online and reverting into it. So my initial thoughts were one of kind of fairly quiet excitement that, a lot of kind of, all of a sudden our department particularly was given a bit of a kind of, it levitated up the charts a little bit, because we were the ones kind of doing quick kind of training sessions one evening with the rest of the staff on how to use this thing called Teams, which I'll be perfectly honest with you, until that point I didn't know existed. And it must have been a kind of dormant Microsoft product that all of a sudden kind of hit the big time, really. Because even to that point, we were still kind of flipping around kind of Zoom, if you remember. I think some schools stuck with it for a bit, but we kind of, luckily, the trust kind of went all in with Microsoft almost overnight. the budget was pushed into. There must have been some lever press somewhere that all of a sudden everyone got kind of this full access to Microsoft 365 and Professional and stuff that we didn't really have before. So that was my immediate thought to how we can kind of shuffle everything online, and kind of we as a department, we were thinking, well, this is kind of fantastic. Our kids are going to love this because this is the way we're going to do it. My second thought was on the Wednesday before, I was actually in an interview with another school, and that school actually kind of locked down a little bit earlier. They called it anyway on the Wednesday night. They kind of read the mood music and just went for it anyway. They decided, because they're a STEM school, they're going to kind of close a day early or so anyway, and just kind of make the call now and get to the holiday and not rely on any kind of other announcement. So I kind of like went from that. I went for it. So I had an interview kind of 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock. 12:30, the head teacher offered me the job and said, basically, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm going to shoot off now. I'm going to close the school and send everyone home. So I'm kind of like scratching. I'm kind of scratching my head, thinking, okay, that's weird, because tomorrow I've got to go back to my school and carry on working. So that was so when I got to, the weird one was for me is that we walked in. Yeah. Well, my daughter's primary school, they couldn't get the catering staff to come in, or the catering company wouldn't come in to do these. So they'd emailed parents to say, can you bring packed lunches tomorrow? So we immediately went to our local supermarket, and it was like something from a zombie apocalypse. There was nothing on the shelves.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it's really weird, and like we hadn't really kind of, because it was all kind of a bit messed up. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, to my embarrassment.
Do you think? And here's the thing: do you think, in some ways, we saw the best of the British people? We saw the Blitz spirit. We saw ordinary people going out there and volunteering. I saw some amazing individuals who stepped up for no other reason than just good people. But then you also saw the selfishness. I'm breaking the rules. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And the funny thing is, it's exactly what mirrors in school now. Like, I'm doing what I want. I'm entitled. You can't tell me what to do. These rules are silly. I'm selfish. I get what I want. And funny, you just in a microcosm, what COVID did was shine a light on, I think, many problems we see in school. The people who think of others before they think of themselves, the people who are team players, the people who help others, the people who are altruistic, the people who are givers. And then the takers, the nasty people, the profiteers, the absolute spivs, the people who had no problem sinning. Let those bodies pile higher. And one way, you had to be proud of the response of the ordinary people, the delivery drivers, the post officers, those teachers in your staff room that stepped up, and those teachers that did a Lord Lucan and disappeared. Because there were some, and I'm going to be honest, let's be frankly honest, there are some people that just disappeared, didn't do a shift at all, and just used COVID as an excuse. And then there are others, God bless them, who worked through COVID, got themselves long COVID, and now are not in education any longer. So I have nothing but the utmost respect for those people that stepped up in this country and actually did something for other people during COVID, regardless of who they were. And I have nothing but disdain and disrespect for those individuals who selfishly just saw it as an opportunity for themselves to do what they want and how they want it. And I think in many ways that just summarizes our society up. The best part of our society, the best part of our schools are those people who really, put themselves out there, volunteered to do things, helped out.
We did a similar thing about like the teacher that when Ofsted kind of come, isn't there? There's some teachers that absolutely vanish. And they disappear off the scene. I think it's worth giving JLB a shout out, because it was really nice to meet you. We met JLB at the
Teachers Connect. Yeah,
so fantastic that you're still tuning in, and we didn't put you off by meeting you in real life. Is it true what they say about meeting your heroes? Go on, Brent. You read it. You go for the comment.
Governments and did at least demonstrate one truth, that that there are teachers in every staff room in the land who have forgotten more about education than a Secretary of State will ever know. Yeah. Look, when it comes down to it, the narratives that have been spun about schools, never close schools again, I'm tired of hearing this, the damage that this has done children, the damage this has done children's school. And I'm like, really? Kids were sitting in their bedrooms for 6 months playing computer games. If the internet had to be broke, our children would be in big trouble. Nobody talks about the damage it's done to teachers. Nobody talks about the damage done to us as the adults. We were never discussed. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to be a little bit biased to say it, but the unions, thank God for Kevin Courtney. Thank God for Mary Boosted. Thank God for the push that union, and it's very obvious that union membership has increased exponentially as a result of what happened during COVID, because they did fight our corner. They did stand up, and they did stand up to a government who are happy to run roughshod over our actual rights. And that is, I think, one of the lessons learned from COVID about, unfortunately, the expendability of people like ourselves in the public sector and how little we are valued. And I think many in education saw that and saw themselves, well, they don't really care about us. And I keep drawing the analogy to those brave soldiers in the First World War who were chucked over the top, and the analogy of the brave lions. The Germans called the British soldiers brave lions led by donkeys. Donkeys who expendably threw away their lives. And I think that's my lasting impression, lasting memory of COVID, of those individuals, of hundreds of thousands of people who lost their lives, those people in care homes, those people in the public sector, those workers that in legacy care homes, some of them, on minimum wages, and to watch others pocket billions and millions of pounds and exploit the country while those poor people are forced to go out to work because there are so much on the breadline that they have to go out and work in 2 and 3 jobs, putting themselves out there, risking higher risk. And again, those nurses without the proper PPE. I think, unfortunately, what upsets me the most about everything is the lack of consequences as a result of everything that happened during COVID. And one of the lack of consequences is how important schools were talked about. But the reality is afterwards, we were given the words of how important we were, but never given the backup and the finance. And since COVID, our sacrifice, our hard work has just been whittled away by successive, education secretaries who really and truly sort of just forgot that we did during COVID. We stepped up, we did our duty, we did the best we could. And when people say we closed the schools, we didn't close the schools, we kept the schools open. And there are teachers out there, but some of us who are listening now that know what we're talking about. We kept the schools going as much as we could as possible. We tried to do online lessons as much as possible. Yeah, there were some that struggled to do that, but the vast majority of teachers out there tried to work all the way through, even despite their own responsibilities to their own families as well, while others were sitting out and having sunshine. So no, I'm not happy with the way that narrative has now been spun. And that narrative now taken hold as well.
I think kind of like let's say in 5 years' time, a similar kind of pandemic happened. I think there's lessons learned.
No, I think they do it again. I think, unfortunately, even worse now, because the trust is gone. I think the general public now.
Or do you think that society would even accept a lockdown? Yeah.
No, I think society now would just turn around and say we don't believe it. I think it's like the Iraq War and lying about weapons of mass destruction. I think when government does not do it right, when government breaks the trust.
I think we just rant a bit. So please come back on.
Yeah. You okay?
I think we're just struggling with your connection, Brent. I think it's just kind of slowing down a little bit. It's just spinning around a little bit. But just while you kind of, I don't know if you can see if you can just close anything down or anything. While we're just kind of taking a break there, we wanted to get on to our second story anyway, about the boiling the frog idiom. Just while we kind of take a kind of part-time break, we'd like to say again thank you to John Katz Educational. Who's obviously leading providers of professional development opportunities for teachers around the world. And you can access a code tonight by using JCTTR2524 for 20% off your order. And you can visit John Katz Bookshop to get that order. We're also really pleased to be supported by Kielo, which is a 100% free tool for thoughtful, inclusive classroom discussions. And you can join them today at kielo.edu.com to access their resources. And one of the great things about doing the show is you get to see these like great companies that are kind of around education as well to kind of join in. So this was basically our kind of chat on the way back from Manchester, wasn't it? About are we tolerating too much? Also, we just got one more comment from JLB about political expression. Lessons learned has become utterly meaningless. Okay, can't agree with you more there, JLB. Thank you very much for your
think
comment.
to finish that off, I think it's the same analogy we have in schools when a child turns around and goes, with no consequences, just do what they want. And I think we live in a society where there's consequences for us, but when the people in charge have no consequences, and again, we've seen this through multiple generations. We saw it after, Labour governments, because I'm not going to be part of political in this. I think we've seen it after successive governments, that when you don't have people in charge who are held to a high standard and to account, and when they break the rules, it's a classic example, when they break the rules, I think one of our problems in school is that the social contract, that the people in charge lie and the people in charge break the rules. We are people in charge. Therefore, I think we've been undermined by the feckless nature of the leadership of this country. And with the exception, and I'm not a monarchist, I'm going to say something that you never thought I'd say. I respect Her Majesty the Queen, the late Majesty the Queen, because she was the only sort of leader there who actually stuck to the rules. Her husband died, and there she is in that chapel by herself, while the rest of them, absolutely, completely, and utterly unfit to rule, unfit to lead, were out there breaking the rules. And I think they have absolutely destroyed that social contract for us, because we are as bastions of kind of respect, law and order. And I think the police are the same issue. There's a spate of petty crime. You want to know why there's knife crime, petty crime, why there's just a spate of absolute lawlessness and entitlement? Because, hey, look, the marker was set, do what you want, even during a national crisis. Would Winston Churchill have behaved like that during the Second World War? I'm no Winston Churchill fan, I'm no monarchist, but Margaret Thatcher, Winston Churchill, country that give you Margaret Thatcher, Winston Churchill, Queen Elizabeth II, and we had a bunch of absolute, complete party animals in charge of a country during a crisis, and we find out that they were telling us to follow rules. I think that action has absolutely, completely undermined a lot of our actions, because as people charged with keeping the social norms, trying to create social norms, trying to create systems, trying to teach young people consequences. Well, you got to follow the rules. Why do they follow the rules? Well, the people in charge will follow the rules. Why should I follow the rules? Parents the same. Why am I following the rules? Why are you finding me? We have just got a society now where people just push back, do what they want.
Yeah, I do want to move on to this.
But I think it's connected. It was the boiling the frog thing is connected.
Let's get into that debate around kind of that topic. I do need to say apologies to John Catt. I said 2524. So I'll just read the code out again. It's JCTTR 2425. I think I'm still in that mode of still writing 2024 on things anyway. So thank you very much for the correction there. So this idea that as teachers, we're quite kind of, we're resilience turned up to 100, aren't we? We are thick-skinned. We are this thing. And sometimes actually, when you kind of like sit and reflect and you kind of do that thing that they say about kind of mindfulness and stuff, you try and talk to yourself like you talk to somebody else. You actually think, should I be putting up with these things? Have I been putting up with things for too long? Am I being kind of used? I guess in some cases, some teachers might say abused in lots of cases and in lots of different kind of guises. And there's kind of evidence for that in the teaching profession. And are they putting up with it when really they should be making more of a stand kind of on an individual basis or as a collective basis to say, actually, this is my work. This is a workplace ultimately. And therefore, should it be like every other workplace? And if I worked in an office and I got shouted at, spoken to, treated, had things thrown at me, would this be okay? Would this be okay for me to be in the workplace? And I guess the general answer is no. But teachers are kind of putting up with this on a daily basis. And as you said earlier, until ultimately they kind of burn out. And then because of that burnout, they can't take this anymore. And they kind of then leave currently in their droves. So that's the kind of idea that we're looking at here, isn't it? Have we become so battled hardened that we don't really know kind of what is right and what is wrong in terms of our treatment as a worker?
Yeah, I mean, there is a science. I mean, it actually is true. true experiment that a French scientist actually participated. He noticed that you can turn a frog will jump out of boiling water, but you can boil it from cold water, gradually increasing the heat, and it will not sense the danger, and it will not then jump out. It will then slowly burn itself and slowly kill itself in a sense, and that's in many ways the damage that is done to us as teachers. That we just reach that point where we accept it, we take it, we accept it, and it's a cultural thing. And I'm a massive fan of some of the psychological theories of the likes of Stanley Milgram. And Stanley Milgram fascinates me, this idea of social norms, this idea of, how society is governed and how people interrelate with each other. And you use a little bit of psychology in the classroom. I'm a big fan of because we talk about how the brains work, and we need to know a little bit about brain formation, how our brain functions, and things like metacognition, things like the Kate Jones stuff talking about retrieval practice. It's just brilliant. It's all based upon good neuroscience. And when you look at the way that we start to create a culture in schools, and how we are trained to sort of accept things, I think there's a generational thing with this, and I think that a lot of people misinterpret the younger generation as, and you've told me off this, because part of this conversation started from you telling me off because I wasn't well, and I wasn't well, and I went into school, and I made myself worse. Yeah. Because I played that martyr of, well, I've got year 11 classes, nobody else is going to teach them, I teach them. So in you get pulled, and go in and do the martyring thing. Go in and be a flipping hero. You go in and do your job and be a martyr to it. And we can sometimes be a bit like that with us teachers. We can get ourselves on a cross and crucify ourselves and say, well, somebody else has got to do this job. And the younger generation aren't. The younger generation are a bit more, well, I'm worth more. You know what? I'm out of here. I'm not putting up with that. And they're pushing back a little bit more. And maybe the older generation are a bit too altruistic and too naive and too trusting and too community oriented. Now, I think somewhere in the middle is where the happy medium is. I think sometimes there are good people out there who go way.
So you're saying this is really kind of zoning in on a demographic here, which is kind of what generation.
There is a demographic to this.
Early millennial, around kind of mid-40s at the minute.
I think your millennials are, your late 30s, late 30s, early 40s is into the generation. Millennials are a turn of 40. Generation X, myself, we're talking mid 40s and above. But and you sort of, right, if you are in education and you're in mid 40s, you tend to come from that generation which is pre-digital, where things were more difficult, where there was analog, where you had to work through things a little bit more. But I look at my own parents' work ethic and their ideas that they passed on to me about service. And when I arrived in my school, there was phrases like service above self, putting the community first. It was very sort of socialist in that sense, in the sense of, putting the community first above your own needs, putting the children's needs above your own needs. You're there for, to help them. Remember, it's that. And I know this is where some people get really angry. And because you use that phrase, and I was always told this phrase, it's a vocation. You go into teaching, you're a vocation. You're not 9 to 5. You are there 24/7. Sometimes you plan late at night. You do marking. You go to parents' evenings. And I've noticed in the last few years as a union rep, more people bringing up 1265. More people going.
Do you think that kind of relationship changed when kind of the pay scales changed? And I've had conversations with some teachers when I managed some teachers, and they just said, you know what, I'm happy on the main pay scale 3, and I'm not going to do any more. And
a few years ago, I noticed that.
And I'm going to go home at 4 o'clock, and if that means I never get the pay scale, job done. That's where I want to be. That's the amount of money I'm going to earn, and job done.
And that's also noticed more people doing 3 days a week, 4 days a week, or for longevity of career side, or having side hustles. I'll do 3 days a week teaching, and I'll have my little business on the side. So there's a lot more of that flexibility coming in, where people are going, okay, I'm teaching something I'll do for a few years, or I'll hang in there and I'll maybe just for longevity, I can't sustain 5 periods, 5 days a week.
I just pick up on that phrase, because that is a phrase that people say a lot in our age group. I will hang on in there. I mean, there is conversations with people in their 40s and 50s going, how long have you got? And you get that kind of, how long can you keep going? And you start calculating, going like, oh, I've got to do 10 more years. 10 more years will take me to what age?
10 more years will take me to what age? What my pension will be? I'm sitting in these conversations going, I got 10 more years left in me. Can I do 10 more years of 417 children, 16 different classes and 3 different subjects? And there's part of me going, I could, but I couldn't be putting up with little Johnny's an entitled child and little Johnny's got some needs. Well, I'll tell you what little Johnny needs. Little Johnny needs that kick up his you-know-what, because little Johnny has no needs except you're being pandering to him, you entitled glutton. I want to say that, but I can't say that. Because
And
little Johnny
we'd like to say on behalf of...
Little Johnny needs nurturing, but little Johnny is in a class with 29 other individuals where he's ruining their education. So part of my problem is I'm reaching that point in my life where I think I am reaching the intolerant point where I cannot listen to any more absolute utter BS. I'm reached my limit of the BS meter.
Yeah.
Here we go again, another initiative. Oh, here we go again. Oh, for God's sake. Get me in front of a class, give me kids, let me teach them. Fine. The rest of the nonsense, get rid of it. It's absolute and utter offstage. I don't even hear about it. I don't care about it. I'm done with it. They can tell me I'm crap. They can bully me all they want. Get out of my classroom. You are no longer trusted. Move. Go. You are irrelevant. You are no longer going to be fearful of you because you are a busted flush. You had your opportunity to reform yourself. You're done. You're toast. So every teacher out there, ignore them. Every head teacher, just ignore them. So when you hear your head of department or your school say, Ofsted, want to see this? Yeah. Forget about them. The kids are important. Their parents are important as well. And the community is important. And I think we're losing sight of that. And that's where the boiling the frog comes in. Because what have we been doing in education? We're changing the curriculum to suit the needs of some point score. Open bucket, closed bucket, or point score must be serviced. I'm there to educate children. I went in as a teacher 21 years ago to educate kids. I didn't go in as a teacher 20 years ago to be an accountant, a social worker, to be brushing children's teeth and to be a surrogate parent.
Oh no, we're back to start.
Absolutely. And this is the problem. I could last another 20 years in front of the classroom if I was in front of the classroom teaching the children, not dealing with all the rest of this nonsense, email culture. If I didn't have parents expect some customer services out of me as if they ring up and expect me to be on tap and say, oh, I'm sorry, my child is the most important child in the universe. Well, congratulations, because every child out there is too. And every child I teach is equally important. And you shout loudly to me, you can shout all you want, I am not pandering to it any longer. I am done with that. And if that means I leave the teaching profession, fine. And I think that's where a lot of us are at the moment, where we just simply cannot cope with the level of crap that has been thrown our way and this constant guilt tripping of teachers aren't doing this, teachers aren't doing that. We're doing our best.
To go back to the idiom, Brent, we're talking the water here is it's behaviour, it's the parental complaints,
unrealistic expectations.
That water's now getting to the point of being a bit kind of, it's gone past a little bit lukewarm now. Is that kind of what you're saying? Is that where we are with this?
It is literally, that water is now boiling. And that water is now boiling because you are literally going, what do I do here? I've got so many things I need to do. I don't know if I can do them. I've got the resources to do them. I've got the time to do them. Do I want to do them?
Have you got the glue sticks? Have you got the glue sticks?
I've got glue sticks. And everywhere I go now, it's just IT systems are not working. The classrooms are falling apart. And the multi-academy trusts and all that nonsense. I mean, my CEOs, everything. I am an educator. I'm private and public sector. It's the way schools are organized. Now, I got out of business 23 years ago because I didn't want to be a business guy singing from the same hymn sheet, having blue sky thinking, sitting in meetings talking about nonsense. I wanted to make a difference. I want to get into a classroom. I want to talk to kids. I want to help kids. But these days, honest to goodness, the bureaucracy, the nonsense, the ticking of the boxes, the initiatives, the stupid, absolute nonsense that we have to do as teachers just gets in the way of the basic job. Because here's the kicker. I still love the job. I absolutely love being in the classroom. I thrive on being in the classroom. I love it being in the classroom. I have a bad day. I walk into a classroom and engaging with young people and having a brilliant lesson and walk out and I'm literally buzzing. I love it. I am still getting the kick out of that. And I think for any of us out there who are feeling what I'm feeling, the boiling the frog, that takes the temperature down. That takes the temperature of that water down. except when then the parent emails and they put the water temperature back up, or some SLT says, or somebody else initiative. So what takes my temperature down is my colleagues, is my brilliant colleagues who are in the same sort of trenches as us, and that takes the temperature down. What takes the temperature down is the love of the subject, you know, the curriculum itself, planning your own curriculum, coming up with ideas, that takes the temperature down. And then the kids themselves making a difference, having the interaction, that takes the temperature down. So what happens, I think, with the boiling the frog with us, me some days, is I am literally, that water is boiling and I'm about to hop out. But then it cools down and I get the water cooled down by all those other things. And that keeps me in. So I think the best analogy is the boiling of the frog is sometimes the boiling of the frog. The water's been boiled, and I'm ready to go. And other times I'm a chill frog at the bottom of that water and I'm just going, I'm loving it. And that's the roller coaster.
You're the frog on the lilo, aren't you? We kind of said this with the margarita at the side. We said to Daniel last week this idea about kind of literally schools is kind of over the capacity is overutilized, and you know I've tried to make a calculation of, you know, if all the things, like if you pulled in all your strategies, adaptive teaching and all this business that you want to kind of bring into the classroom, and you see the merits in it, that can only be really done with classes size wise around kind of 10 to 15 if you kind of put that as a kind of marker. So if you're teaching to 30 and above, you're kind of well over 100% of your 200% actually of your capacity. So actually it's that's boiling the water for me. If you think about kind of that engineering side of stress, you know, it's not just on the teacher where the boiling water is for capacity utilization. It's in the building, it's in the resources, it's in the whole infrastructure of the place. The school that I worked at next door to you was literally over capacity. It was a school built for 900 students that held up nearly 1,300 students at one point. So literally, it was the living embodiment of the boiling frog. It was boiling over just because the corridors were just so full, and
then the sixth wealthiest country, and this is the sixth wealthiest country in the world. The lack of investment in education, linked to two stories we're talking about, is really, really frustrating. When you hear the SEND crisis, you're thinking, we haven't got the resources, we've not got the TAs, we've got more children with more needs, and I want to help them. I really want to help them, but there are some parents who just, my child. But your child's needs are less than this child. I'm entitled, therefore I want, and I don't care about the impact on the rest of the school. There is that aspect where I don't think a lot of parents out there understand the impact that they have on the school, or the impact their children can have on other children, because they are in a world now of kind of customer services. You're providing me a service. I'm going to ring up. I'm going to speak to the manager. Head teachers are getting it. God bless them. And head teachers out there, you are amazing. I mean, they're leaving in even greater numbers because we saw the reports, they're being beaten up, they're being attacked.
We've got to remember this is really attacked. Brent, this is Teachers Talk Radio, and head teachers are.
They are, and again, they get it from, you know, imagine if our head teacher has to put up with bullshit me, but we get on because we both have the same agenda. I want the best of the school, I want the best of the kids, I want the best of the staff, and he does too. It's just obviously it's difficult because you know, a modern head teacher, much like is now having to be so much more. They're having to be PR, they're having to manage situations, they're having to communicate with parents, and almost again everything we are, social workers, etc., etc. And I think that's why some schools have just said enough's enough. We're a school, this is what we do, and if you don't like it, there we go. And I don't agree with some of those schools, because I think schools need to be nurturing environments and caring environments. And I think what I've seen, some schools become more corporate, more harsher, more Victorian. But it's easy to criticize them. But then again, when they're in the situation they're in, they've looked at it and thought, well, I'm sorry, we've got no other choice to get behavior under control, to get what we want out of the children, to get good exam results. They have made that choice. And you get some parents then saying, well, you know, schools now. And again, what likes the behavior, you get some parents who criticize schools. Schools are prisons. And I'm like, catch yourself on. Schools are not prisons. I'm a compassionate teacher. I am a bit tough, don't get me wrong. But I ain't taking a cane and battering children the way I was taking a cane to and battered. And I didn't raise my voice these days. And that's the other side of it. We dare not assert ourselves, because how dare we? How dare you? How dare you raise your voice to my child? Yeah, what? I'm not taking a cane and battering them. I got battered at school with a cane. Put this into some actual perspective and context, people, because, saying the kids have to wear their uniform correctly, tuck their shirts in and walk the right-hand side of a corridor isn't exactly Nazi Germany. Now, is it? But taking a cane to children and ritually beating them and threatening them with going into the hell of brimstone, which my primary school teacher did. She used religion on me. She told me I was going to go to hell in a brimstone. I mean, I had religion plus being battered at school. So I'm not listening to this sort of, I'm the liberal guy, but you're getting people literally going, oh, it's disgraceful, not letting kids go to toilets when they want. I want to take my child out when I want to take my child out and go on a holiday when I want to go on a holiday. Now I'm going to complain to the school because I'm right. I mean, what? And then you complain that your school feels an offset on attendance when you're taking your child out on holiday. I just think everything's gone so south that the standard has dropped so low. The expectations have been so lowered, and yet it's all on us because kids fail. I'm to blame. School's to blame, not the parent, not the child. I'm to blame. I'm to blame because I'm the teacher. I failed my driving instructor. My driving instructor was in the back of the car. I drove the wrong way, did the wrong thing, stalled the car on a hill. He had nothing to do with me messing up my driving test. That's all on me. And I got out of my car, and the first thing I said to my driving instructor was like, I'm really sorry. You did not teach me to do any of those things. Second time around, no problem. But we're living in a world now where we're got at, undermined, chipped away at, easy targets, front-facing service, and schools, teachers, schools. So we just fed up. We're done.
Yeah, so I guess, as always, Brent, we're never going to kind of complete all of our debates and come to a kind of proper conclusion. We've done two good topics tonight. We've got COVID and the boiling frog idiom. If you want to kind of, you just got to the end of the show and you kind of want to go back, these are all on kind of YouTube for you to kind of listen back to. Just want to kind of give a quick shout out for some shows coming up. At 9 o'clock, we have Chris Wilkinson looking at assessment for growth, an A-level special. And on Sunday lunch, we've got creating an educational video with Graham Stanley as well. So we've got some great stuff coming up this week, tonight, straight after this show, and then at the weekend, as always. I just want to say again a quick thank you to our sponsors for tonight. And we've got John Catt as normal, which is great, and you can go to the code JCTTR2425. I need to kind of get a beat with that, 2425 for 20% off your order. So thank you very much for John, and also a big thank you to Key Alo Edu, which is 100% free tool for thoughtful, inclusive classroom and discussion. I'm definitely I think I might have a look at that tomorrow, actually, in lessons. Yeah. We're doing a bit of debate. So you can go to kielo/edu.com for more information about that tool. I think you kind of just put your email address in, and it's pretty much a go with that. But it looks like a wonderful tool, again, to add to that toolkit. So we're not on kind of next week. We're on the following week. And I think we're going to pick up on the announcement from Sir Keir Starmer today about this kind of flabby public service. Do you feel flabby? I feel a bit flabby. Flabby public service, a horrible term to kind of get leaked in the test. No, you don't feel flabby? You feel toned? Feel good to go? Well, the
most disappointing thing from a supposed socialist government, change the name of the Labour Party to the former Labour Party, because honestly speaking, if they're going to start attacking the public sector and disabled, and I think we're heading for, we had Daniel Kennedy on last week, I think the mood music is going to be one for, well, really, austerity part 2. And I, for one, have known what austerity part 1 has done to education, but what it did to communities. That's going to make our boiling frog, that to me is going to start ratcheting that temperature up. And that may drive invariably people like me out of the system, because we reach that point where we just think, I'm not making a difference any longer. I can't do this any longer. And you know what? Fine. Get somebody else in to replace me. And I think I'm disappointed with this government, because we expected them to be more in line with respecting the public sector. And to hear the parroted lines of the previous government, I think many now are realizing, well, I mean, what changes have been brought about? The government has brought about change. You've got a 5.5% pay rise. That's fine. That was good. but 2.8 coming out of our potential budgets. The cavalry isn't coming. Where's the 6,500 teachers? Where are the 6,500?
Where are they? So that's a really good point. Where are they?
Where's the cavalry? I'm waiting for the cavalry to come. You know, I've done my 20 odd years. Any chance of having the cavalry come to give me some relief here? I was showing the movie Zulu today, actually. I was showing that old Warwick's Drift movie.
I'm not going to let you go into Zulu because we've got 5 seconds.
No, but I was, and in the end, the Zulus retreated.
I'm going to say goodbye, Brent.
No, I'm not. Let me finish.
I can mute you. I've got the control. I can mute you. Look.
Don't you mute me. Don't you mute me.
We're on an hour. Chris is on. Chris is on.
I'm finishing my point.
You've got 10 seconds.
Right. The cavalry did come and rescue them in the end, and that's how the empire was built, because people looked after each other. Here we are now, waiting for the cavalry. And where's the 6,500 teachers, Keir? Any chance? We need them. We need them now.
Goodbye.
Send the cavalry.
See you next week, everyone. Brent can carry on. Watch Zulu, and we'll see you next week. Say bye, Brent.
Bye, Brent.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused